Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Forrest over here, and welcome back to another reading stream. Today, as you can see from the title, I'm going to try once again to read Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This is part two. I've been trying so many fucking times to to read this book to you guys. Well, at least part two of this book, but it's been problematic and it's been annoying the hell out of me because every time I try to do this, it just ends badly for some reason, for one reason or another. So yeah. But before we get into doing this reading stream, I do have a few books I would like to show off, and I'm saving what is essentially the big finale, the big book out of this four books collection here, because I bought two at Walmart the other day, and two others that I bought off of Amazon came earlier today, and I'm looking very much forward to reading them. But so let's take a look at this. So we have our first book, and just for the record, they appear to be literally just horror films. What? Horror novels. So yeah, and I'm looking very much forward to reading them. So first book we have by Marin Stoffels, No Escape. I know my stuff is over here. Don't just ignore that real quick. But yeah, so No Escape. Um, I I looked at this book because I noticed how escape rooms have been popular in recent years, and so I guess this book was made kind of to, you know, take a play on how that plays out. Um, what they got here on the back is when Lexi receives an invitation to participate in a brand new escape room along with her best friend Tess, she's thrilled. After a recent tragedy, they could both use the distraction. But once inside, they learn that they must compete against each other. What do you do when your best friend suddenly becomes your, and every choice you make puts in danger? Yeah, I'm trying to keep out the most important aspects of that story so that way you guys don't get spoiled here. But yeah, that's No Escape by Marin Stopples. Next we have uh, this book, The Haunting by Natasha Preston. Yeah, The Haunting by Natasha Preston. No, this is not a remake of the The Haunting, the 1930 30s classic. I think that's when it came out. I'm not too sure. But yeah, this book is not based on that very old black and white movie that involves paranormal activity and ghosts and all that. So, so here's what they got on the back here. Penny knows she must forget about her ex, Nash. Ever since his father was revealed as the Penny's parents have forbidden her to have anything to do with Nash or his family. It's hard not to think of him, but she's trying. That stops when she goes shopping with friends for a costume. What she finds instead is ripped from a horror movie. And no, I'm not going to say what that is. You'll have to either wait for me to read the book or buy the book yourself to find out. People are quick to blame Nash and his sister, but as Halloween nears and the Penny can't help thinking this is someone no one else suspects. Yeah, another book I was interested in for a while, and I finally bought it. But those are the two books that I got off of Walmart. Now, here are the ones that I got from Amazon. First off, we have Fantastic Land, a novel by Mike Bakovin. Yeah, Mike Bakovin. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. How is this a horror movie? How is this a horror book? First off, have you ever played the game The Park? Because I mean, dude, that game. I noticed what hat I'm wearing. I'm taking that off because I'm not being promoted or sponsored by them. But yeah, anyway, have you ever played the park? Well, this book is pretty much like that book, but they're it's like the only similarity is a they involve like what do you call it? A theme park. Yeah. They both involve theme parks, but that's about it. Without saying too much, I love what they say on the back of it here, especially at the bottom, the very bottom of this, all right? But I'm going to read the back for anybody that wants to know more about this book without the spoilers. I'm just going to say the things that don't seem like it's going to spoil anything. But I will anything that may be spoilers. But anyway, since the 1970s, Fantastic Land has been the theme park where fun is guaranteed. But when it ravages the Florida coast and isolates the park, the employees find it anything but fun. 5 weeks later, the authorities who rescue the encounter a scene of horror. Photos soon emerge online of breaking records for hits, views, likes, clicks, and shares. How could a group of survivors, mostly teenagers, presented as a fact-finding investigation and a series of first-person interviews, Fantastic Land pieces together the cut off from the world and left on their own. The teenagers soon form this new social network divides the ravaged dreamland into territories ruled by the, the, and the, if, if meticulously curated online personas can replace private identities, what takes over when those constructs are lost? Fantastic! I love the very bottom of this because it's like tells you what you're up against, what you're about to witness. Fantastic Land is a modern take on Lord of the Flies meets Battle Royale that probes the consequences of a social civilization built online. Yep, I'm very much looking forward to that. And finally, the last book I want to show before we start reading this Percy Jackson book, and I did say it was going to be like the main event, because this book is based on the movie that came out last year. Yes, I got the novel based on the movie. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And yes, that would in fact mean. Let me put my camera down and I realize how far down I am. Yes, that would mean I will be watching the Five Nights at Freddy's movie after I'm done reading the book. Yes. Ironically enough, though, what I find hilarious about this, I don't need to rate it. It's literally got the rating on the back. So yes, this book is gonna be rated PG-13 because it even look it. Like I said, look at that, look at that. It even says on the back. You know when it says something on the back, you know it's gonna be rated. It's gonna be. It was given that rating for a reason. And I have honestly been wanting to read that book for a while now, so I'm curious to see if it's better than the movie, or the same, or worse, or whatever. So yeah, I will be watching the movie. Five Nights at Freddy's. So yes, these are all the books that I bought recently, and I am looking so much forward to reading them when I get to them. But for now, we are gonna go ahead and read this book that I've been waiting so long to read because of reasons. So, I will be reading from chapter 6. Trying to... Yeah, we'll be reading from chapter 6 all the way up until the end of chapter 9. Because that's where we go from being introduced to certain new characters to the start of the actual story that's about to take place, because they're going to be doing something for the foreseeable um, for the foreseeable future of the book. Alright, so well, actually I should probably keep my glasses on because I'm a bit far away from the from the screen this time, so yeah. Anyway, here we go. Now we are officially starting Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, Part 2. Chapters 6 through 9. Pages 75 through 148. Wish me luck. Chapter 6. I become the Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Once I got over the fact that my Latin teacher was a horse, we had a nice tour, though I was careful not to walk behind him. I'd done Pooper Scooper Patrol in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade a few times, and I'm sorry, I did not trust Sharon's back end the way I trusted his front. See if I can do this better here. Let me wipe my glasses off real quick, because I can't really read it that much. Hey, hello, Sky Rocket. How you doing tonight? Yeah, I'm just cleaning my glasses so that way I can see better. So that way I don't have to worry about trying to adjust my glasses to read anything. Doing good? Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, so while we got that going on, I did announce a few books that I got recently that I am going to be reading at some point in the near future. Probably. We'll see how the polls go, because I'm adjusting how I do them now. But in any case, yep. Not the best, but not the worst either. Alright. Yeah, so, because I got 4 books just recently. No Escape, The Haunting, Fantastic Land, and the Five Nights at Freddy's movie based on the novels. Or the Five Nights at Freddy's novel based on the movie, I should say. I almost got the two mixed up there. And yes, that would definitely be in that, because I do have it. I will be watching the Five Nights at Freddy's movie when I get to reading that book. But for now, we're reading Percy Jackson and this other book that I got over here titled Slobber Knocker, My Life in Wrestling by Jim Ross, who is a commentator across multiple wrestling promotions, like the NWA, the UWF, the WCW, WWF/WWE, and modern times AEW. Yes, I'm very excited to read that book. But if you're a dog lover, there's the part of the beginning of that book you probably don't want to listen to. But either way, we're moving on. Alright. Chapter 6. I become the Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Once I got over the fact that my Latin teacher was a horse, we had a nice tour, though I was careful not to walk behind him. I'd done Pooper Scooper Patrol in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade a few times, and I'm sorry, I did not trust Sheeran's back end the way I trusted his front. We passed the volleyball pit. Several of the campers nudged each other. One pointed to the Minotaur horn I was carrying. Another said, "That's him!" Most of the campers were older than me. Their satyr friends were bigger than Grover, all of them trotting around in orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirts with nothing else to cover their bare, shaggy hind quarters. I wasn't normally shy, but the way they stared at me made me uncomfortable. I felt like they were expecting me to do a flip or something. I looked back at the farmhouse. It was a lot bigger than I'd realized. 4 stories tall, sky blue with white trim, like an upscale seaside resort. I was checking out the brass eagle weather vane on top when something caught my eye. A shadow in the uppermost windows of the attic gable. Something had moved the curtain, just for a second, and I got the distinct impression I was being watched. "What's up there?" I asked, cheering. He looked where I was pointing and his smile faded. "Just the attic." Somebody lives there?" "No," he said with finality. "Not a single living thing." I got the feeling he was being truthful, but I was also sure something had moved that curtain. "Come along, Percy," Sharon said, his light-hearted tone now a little forced. "Lots to see." Have you watched Has Been Hotel? Nope, but I have heard of it through so many other people by way of so many other streams from a couple of people, specifically one of them, because so many people would bring it up on our streams, and some other people would say, "Oh yeah, that show, not kid friendly, yeah." So yeah, I've heard of that, but I've never seen it before. I've heard some people like it. I've heard some people not like it. I haven't seen it, so I can't say whether I do or not. But yeah, maybe I might watch it. Maybe we'll see. We walked through the strawberry fields, where campers were picking bushels of berries while a satyr played a tune on a reed pipe. Sharon told me the camp grew a nice crop for export to New York restaurants in Mount Olympus. "It pays out expenses," he explained, "and the strawberries take almost no effort." He said Mr. D had this effect on fruit-bearing plants. They just went crazy when he was around. It worked best with wine grapes, but Mr. D was restricted from growing those, so they grew strawberries instead. I watched the satyr playing his pipe. His music was causing lines of bugs to leave the strawberry patch in every direction, like refugees fleeing a fire. I wondered if Grover could work that kind of magic with music. I wondered if he was still inside the farmhouse getting chewed out by Mr. D. "Grover won't get into too much trouble, will he?" I asked, cheering. "I mean, he was a good protector. Really." Cheering sighed. He shed his tweed jacket and draped it over his horse's back like a saddle. "Grover has big dreams, Percy. Perhaps bigger than are reasonable. To reach his goal, he must first demonstrate great courage by succeeding as a keeper, finding a new camper, and bringing him safely to Half-Blood Hill." "But he did that!" "I might agree with you," Chiron said, "but it is not my place to judge. Dionysus and the Council of Cloven Elders must decide. I'm afraid they might not see this assignment as a success. After all, Grover lost you in New York. Then there's the unfortunate uh, fate of your mother, and the fact that Grover was unconscious when you dragged him over the property line. The council might question whether this shows any courage on Grover's part." I wanted to protest. None of what happened was Grover's fault. I also felt really, really guilty. If I hadn't given Grover the slip at that bus station, he might not have gotten in trouble. "He'll get a second chance, won't he?" Chiron winced. "I'm afraid that was Grover's second chance, Percy. The council was not anxious to give the council was not anxious to give him another either, after what happened the first time, 5 years ago. Olympus knows. I advised him to wait longer before trying again. He's still so small for his age." How old is he? Oh, 28. What? And he's in 6th grade? Satyrs mature half as fast as humans, Percy. Grover has been the equivalent of a middle school student for the past 6 years. That's horrible. Quite, Chiron agreed. At any rate, Grover is a late bloomer, even by satyr standards, and not yet very accomplished at woodland magic. Alas, he was very anxious to pursue his dream. Perhaps now he'll find some other career. That's not fair, I said. What happened the first time? Was it really so bad? Chiron looked away quickly. Let's move along, shall we? But I wasn't quite ready to let the subject drop. Something had occurred to me when Chiron talked about my mother's fate, as if he were intentionally avoiding the word death. The beginnings of an idea, a tiny hopeful fire, started forming in my mind. Chiron, I said, if the gods and Olympus and all that are real. Yes, child? Does that mean the underworld is real too? Chiron's expression darkened. Yes, child. He paused as if choosing his words carefully. There is a place where spirits go after death. But for now, until we know more, I would urge you to put that out of your head. What do you mean, until we know more? Come on, Percy. Come, Percy. Let's see the woods. Yeah, just so you guys know, I'll be reading chat after every so often. When there's like a space in between paragraphs or at the end of the chapter, I will be looking at chat. So that way, you guys don't feel like I'm ignoring you in between, my readings. Just so we're all on the same page there. As we got closer, I realized how huge the forest was. It took up at least a quarter of the valley with trees so tall and thick, you could imagine nobody had been in there since the Native Americans. Chiron said, the woods are stocked if you care to try your luck, but go armed. Stocked with what? I asked. Armed with what? You'll see. Capture the flag this Friday night. Do you have your own sword and shield? My own? No, Chiron said. I don't suppose you do. I think a size 5 will do. I'll visit the armory later. I wanted to ask what kind of summer camp had an armory, but there was too much else to think about, so the tour continued. We saw the archery range, the canoeing lake, the stables, which Chiron didn't seem to like very much, the javelin range, the sing-along amphitheater, and the arena where Chiron said they held sword and spear fights. Sword and spear fights? I asked. Cabin challenges and all that, he explained. Not lethal. Usually. Oh yes, and there's the mess hall. Chiron pointed to an outdoor pavilion framed in white, Grecian columns on a hill overlooking the sea. There were a dozen stone picnic tables. No roofs, no walls. What do you do when it rains? I asked. Chiron looked at me as if I'd gone a little weird. We still have to eat, don't we? I decided we still have to eat, don't we? I decided to drop the subject. Finally, he showed me the cabins. There were 12 of them, nestled in the woods by the lake. They were arranged in a U, with 2 at the base and 5 in a row on either side. And they were without doubt the most bizarre collection of buildings I'd ever seen. Except for the fact that each... Sorry about that, camera. Except for the fact that each had a large brass number above the door, odds on the left side, evens on the right, they looked absolutely nothing alike. Number 9 had smokestacks like a tiny factory. Number 4 had tomato vines on walls and a roof made out of real grass. 7 seemed to be made of solid gold, which gleamed so much in the sunlight it was almost impossible to look at. They all faced a common area about the size of a soccer field, dotted with Greek statues, fountains, flower beds, and a couple of basketball hoops, which were more my speed. But in the center of the field was a huge stone-lined fire pit. Even though it was a warm afternoon, the hearth smoldered. A girl about 9 years old was tending the flames, poking the coals with a stick. The pair of cabins at the head of the field, numbers 1 and 2, looked like his and hers mausoleums, big white marble boxes with heavy columns in front. Cabin 1 was the biggest and bulkiest of the 12. Its polished bronze doors shimmered like a hologram, so that from different angles lightning bolts seemed to streak across them. Cabin 2 was more grateful somehow, with slimmer columns garlanded with pomegranates and flowers. The walls were carved with images of peacocks. Zeus and Hera, I guessed. Correct, Chiron said. Their cabins look empty. Several of the cabins are. That's true. No one ever stays in 1 or 2. Okay, so each cabin had a different god, like a mascot. 12 cabins for the 12 Olympians. But why would some be empty? I stopped in front of the first cabin on the left, cabin 3. It wasn't high and mighty like cabin 1, but long and solid. The outer walls were of rough gray stone, studded with pieces of seashell and coral, as if the slabs had been hewn straight from the bottom of the ocean floor. I peeked inside the opera doorway, and Sheeran said, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." Before he could pull me back, I caught the salty scent of the interior, like the wind on the shore of Montauk. The interior walls glowed like an ambulance. There were six empty bunk beds with silk sheets and turned down, but there was no sign anyone had ever slept there. The place felt so dead and lonely. I was glad when Sheeran put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Come along, Percy." Most of the other cabins were crowded with campers. Number 5 was bright red, a real nasty paint job, as if the color had been splashed on with buckets and fists. The roof was lined with barbed wire. A stuffed wild boar's head hung over the doorway, and its eyes seemed to follow me. Inside I could see a bunch of mean-looking kids, both girls and boys, arm wrestling and arguing which each other to took music blared. The loudest was a girl maybe 13 or 14. She wore a size triple XL Camp Half-Blood t-shirt underneath a camouflage jacket. She zeroed in on me and gave me an evil sneer. She reminded me of Nancy Buffett, though the camper girl was much bigger and tougher looking, and her hair was long and stringy and broken instead of red. I kept walking, trying to stay clear of Sharon's hooves. "We haven't seen any of the creatures," I observed. "No," said Sharon sadly. "My kinsmen are a wild and barbaric folk, I'm afraid. You might encounter them in the wilderness, but at major sporting events, you don't want to see any here." You said your name was Chirin. Are you really?" He smiled down at me. "The Chirin from the stories? Trainer of Hercules and all that?" "Yes, Percy, I am. But I shouldn't take your head." Chirin paused as if the question unintrigued him. I honestly don't know what else to say. The trash is the trash. What? The truth is, I can't be dead. You see, eons ago, the gods granted me my wish. I could come back to time. uh, I could continue the work I loved. I could be a teacher of heroes as long as humanity needed me. I gained much from that wish, and I grew up much. But I'm still here, so I can only assume I'm still needed. Hmm. I thought about being a teacher for 3,000 years. It wouldn't have made my top 10 things to wish for list. Doesn't it ever get boring? "No, no," he said. "Horribly depressing at times, but never boring." "Why depressing?" Chiron seemed to turn hard of hearing again. "Oh, look," he said. "Annabeth is waiting for us." The blonde girl I had met at the big house was reading a book in front of the last cabin on the left, number 11. When we reached her, she looked me over critically, like she was still thinking about how much I doubt I drooled. I tried to see what she was reading, but I couldn't make out the title. I thought my dyslexia was acting up. Then I realized the title wasn't even English. The letters looked Greek to me. I mean, literally Greek. There were pictures of temples and statues and different kinds of columns, like those in an architecture book. Annabeth, Sharon said, I have master's archery class at noon. Would you take Percy from here? Yes, sir. Cabin 11, Sharon told me, gesturing toward the doorway. Make yourself at home. Out of all the cabins, 11 looked the most like a regular old summer camp cabin, with the emphasis on old. The threshold was worn down, the brown paint peeling. Over the doorway was one of those doors doctor symbols, a winged pole with two snakes wrapped around it. What do they call it? A caduceus. Inside it was packed with people, both boys and girls, way more than the number of bunk beds. Sleeping bags were spread all over on the floor. It looked like a gym where the Red Cross had set up an evacuation center. Cheer didn't go in. The door was too low for him. But when the campers saw him, they all stood and bowed respectfully. Well then, Cheerin said. Good luck, Percy. I'll see you at dinner. He galloped away toward the archery range. I stood in the doorway, looking at the kids. They weren't bowing anymore. They were staring at me, sizing me up. I knew this routine. I'd gone through it at enough schools. Well, Annabeth prompted. Go on. So naturally I tripped coming into the door and made a total fool of myself. There were some snippers from the campers, but none of them said anything. Annabeth announced, Percy Jackson, meet Cabin 11. Regular or undetermined? Somebody asked. I didn't know what to say, but Annabeth said, undetermined. Everybody groaned. A guy who was a little older than the rest came forward. Now, campers, that's what we're here for. Welcome, Percy. You can have that spot on the floor right over there. The guy was about 19 and he looked pretty cool. He was tall and muscular, short cropped sandy hair, and a friendly smile. He wore an orange tank top, cut-offs, sandals, and a leather necklace with 5 different colored clay beads. The only thing unsettling about his appearance was a thick white scar that ran from just beneath his right eye to his jaw, like an old knife slash. This is Luke, Annabeth said, and her voice sounded different somehow. I glanced over and could have sworn she was blushing. She saw me looking and her expression hardened again. He's your counselor for now. For now? I asked. Yeah, I'm hearing footsteps. I think that's a family member. Hmm. You're undetermined. You're undetermined, Luke explained patiently. They don't know what cabin to put you in, so you're here. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all visitors. Naturally, we would. Hermes, our patron, is the god of travelers. I looked at the tiny section of floor they'd given me. I had nothing to put them to mark as my own. No luggage, no clothes, no sleeping bag, just the Minotaur's horn. I thought about setting that down, but then I remembered that Hermes was also the god of thieves. I looked around at the campers' faces, some sullen and suspicious, some grinning stupidly, some eyeing me as if they were waiting for a chance to pick my pockets. How long will I be here? I asked. Good question, Luke said. Until you're determined. How long will that take? The campers all laughed. Come on, Annabeth told me. I'll show you the volleyball court. I've already seen it. Come on. She grabbed my wrist and dragged me outside. I could hear the kids of Cabin 11 laughing behind me. When we were a few feet away, Annabeth said, Jackson, you have to do better than that. What? She rolled her eyes and mumbled under her breath. I can't believe I thought you were the one. was very bad timing with the toilet on that line, I'm telling you. Basically, my mom was saying, basically, that toilet saying, well, your thought process stinks. Anyway. What's your problem? I was getting angry now. All I know is I killed some bull guy. Don't talk like that, Annabeth told me. You know how many kids at this camp wish they'd had your chance? To get killed? To fight the Minotaur! What do you think we trained for? I shook my head. Look, if the thing I fought really was the Minotaur, the same one in the stories, yes, then there's only one. Yes. And he died like a gazillion years ago, right? These Theseus killed him in the labyrinth. So, monsters don't die, Percy. They can be killed, but they don't die. Oh, thanks. That clears it up. They don't have souls like you and me. You can dispel them for a while, maybe even for a whole lifetime if you're lucky. But they are primal forces. Sheeran calls them archetypes. Eventually they reform. I thought about Mrs. Dodds. You mean if I killed one accidentally with the sword? Your math teacher. That's right. She's still out there. You just made her very, very mad. How did you know about Mrs. Dodds? You talk in your sleep. You almost called her something. A fury? They're Hades' torturers, right? Annabeth glanced nervously at the ground as if she expected it to open and swallow her. You shouldn't call them by name, even here. We call them the kindly ones, if we have to speak of them at all. Look, is there anything we can say without it thundering? I sounded whiny, even to myself, but right then I didn't care. Why do I have to stay in cabin 11 anyway? Why is everybody so crowded together? There are plenty of empty bunks tied right over there. I pointed to the first few cabins and Annabeth turned pale. You don't just choose a cabin, Percy. It depends on who your parents are. Or your parent. She stared at me, waiting for me to get it. My mom is Sally Jackson, I said. She works at the candy store in Grand Central Station. At least she used to. I'm sorry about your mom, Percy, but that's not what I mean. I'm talking about your other parent. Your dad. He's dead. I never knew him. Annabeth sighed. Clearly she'd had this conversation before with other kids. Your father's not dead, Percy. How can you say that? You know him? No, of course not. Then how can you say, because I know you? You wouldn't be here if you weren't one of us. You don't know anything about me. No? She raised an eyebrow. I wish I could, but I can't. I bet you moved around from school to school. I bet you were kicked out of a lot of them. How diagnosed with dyslexia? Probably ADHD too. I tried to swallow my embarrassment. What does that have to do with anything? Taken together, it's almost a sure sign. The letters float off the page when you read, right? That's because your mind is hardwired for ancient Greek. And the ADHD, you're impulsive, can't sit still in the classroom. That's your battlefield reflexes. In a real fight, they'd keep you alive. As for the attention problems, that's because you see too much, Percy, not too little. Your senses are better than a regular mortal's. Of course, the teachers want you medicated. Most of them are monsters. They don't want you seeing them for what they are. You sound like you went through the same thing? Most of the kids here did. If you weren't like us, you couldn't have survived the Minotaur, much less the ambrosia and nectar. Ambrosia and nectar. The food and drink we were giving you to make you better. That stuff would have killed a normal kid. It would have turned your blood to fire and your bones to sand and you'd be dead. Face it, you're a half-blood. A half-blood. I was reeling with so many questions. I didn't know where to start. Then a husky voice yelled, "Well, a newbie!" I looked over. The big girl from the ugly red cabin was sauntering toward us. She had three other girls behind her, all big and ugly, and mean looking like her, all wearing camo jackets. "Clarissa," Annabeth sighed, "why don't you go polish your spear or something?" "Sure, Miss Princess," the big girl said, "so I can run you through with it Friday night." "Arias Korakas," Annabeth said. I wish, which I somehow understood was Greek for "go to the crows," though I had a feeling it was a worse curse than it sounded. "You don't stand a chance." "We'll pulverize you," Clarissa said, but her eyes twitched. Perhaps she wasn't sure she could follow through on the threat. She turned toward me. "Who's this little runt?" "Percy Jackson," Annabeth said. "Meet Clarissa, daughter of Ares." I blinked. "Like the war god?" Clarissa sneered. "You got a problem with that?" "No," I said, recovering my wits. "It explains the bad smell." Damn, Percy. Burning this woman. Burning this person. Clarissa growled. "We've had an initiation ceremony for newbies, Percy." "Percy. Whatever. Come on, I'll show you." "Clarissa," Annabeth tried to say. "Stay out of it, wise girl." Annabeth looked pained, but she did stay out of it, and I didn't really want her help. I was the new kid. I had to earn my own rep. I handed Annabeth my Minotaur horn and got ready to fight, but before I knew it, Clarissa had me by the neck and was dragging me toward a cinder block building that I knew immediately was the bathroom. I was kicking and punching. I'd been in plenty of fights before, but this big girl Clarissa had hands like iron. She dragged me into the girls' bathroom. There was a line of toilets on one side and a line of shower stalls down the other. It smelled just like any public bathroom, and I was thinking, as much as I could think with Clarissa ripping my hair out, that if this place belonged to the gods, they should have been able to afford classier Johns. Clarissa's friends were all laughing, and I was trying to find the strength I'd used to fight the Minotaur, but it just wasn't there. "Like he's big three material," Clarissa said as she pushed me toward one of the toilets. "Yeah, right. Minotaur probably fell over laughing. You were so stupid looking." Her friend snickered. Annabeth stood in the corner, watching through her fingers. Clarissa bent me over on my knees and started pushing my head toward the toilet bowl. It reeked like rusted pipes and, well, like what goes in the toilets. I strained to keep my head up. I was looking at the scummy water, thinking, I will not go into that. I won't. Then something happened. I found a tug in the pit of my stomach. I heard the plumbing rumble, the pipe shudder. Clarissa's grip on my hair loosened. Water shot out of the toilet, making an arc straight over my head, and the next thing I knew, I was sprawled on the bathroom tiles, with Clarissa screaming behind me. I turned just as water blasted out of the toilet again, hitting Clarissa straight in the face, so hard it pushed her down onto her butt. The water stayed on her like the spray from a fire hose, pushing her backward into a shower stall. She struggled, gasping, and her friends started coming toward her. But then the other toilets exploded too, and six more streams of toilet water blasted them back. The showers acted up too, and together, all the fixtures sprayed the camouflage girls right out of the bathroom, spinning them around like pieces of garbage being washed away. As soon as they were out the door, I felt the tug in my gut lessen, and the water shut off as quickly as it had started. The entire bathroom was flooded. Annabeth hadn't been spared. She was dripping wet, but she hadn't been pushed out the door. She was standing in exactly the same place, staring at me in shock. I looked down and realized I was sitting in the only dry spot in the whole room. There was a circle of dry floor around me. I didn't have one drop of water on my clothes. Nothing. I stood up, my legs shaking. Annabeth said, How did you... I don't know. We walked to the door. Outside, Clarissa and her friends were sprawled in the mud, and a bunch of other campers had gathered around to gawk. Clarissa's hair just flattened across her face. Her camouflage jacket was sopping, and she smelled like sewage. She gave me a look of absolute hatred. "You're dead now, new boy! You are totally dead!" I probably should have let it go, but I said, "You want to gorge with the toilet water again, Clarissa? Close your mouth." Her friends had to hold her back. They dragged her toward cabin 5, while the other campers made way to avoid her flailing feet. Annabeth stared at me. I couldn't tell whether she was just grossed out or angry at me for dousing her. "What?" I demanded. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," she said, "that I want you on my team for Capture the Flag." Ooh. Gonna play Capture the Flag here soon, are they? Okay. Chapter 7. My dinner goes up in smoke. Word of the bathroom incident spread immediately. Wherever I went, campers pointed at me and murmured something about toilet water. Or maybe they were just staring at Annabeth, who was still pretty much dripping wet. She showed me a few more places. The metal shop, where kids were forging their own swords. The arts and crafts room, where satyrs were sandblasting a giant marble stone of a goat man. And the climbing wall, which actually consisted of two facing walls that shook violently, dropped boulders, sprayed lava, and clashed together if you didn't get to the top fast enough. Finally, we returned to the canoeing lakes, where the trail led back to the cabins. "I've got training to do," Annabeth said flatly. "Dinner's at 7:30. Just follow your cabin to the mess hall." Annabeth, "I'm sorry about the toilets." "Whatever. It wasn't my fault." She looked at me skeptically, and I realized it was my fault. I'd made water shoot out of the bathroom fixtures. I didn't understand how, but the toilets had responded to me. I had become one with the plumbing. "You need to talk to the Oracle," Annabeth said. Who? Not who. What? The Oracle. I'll ask Chirin." I stared into the lake, wishing somebody would give me a straight answer for once. I wasn't expecting anybody to be looking back at me from the bathroom, or from the bottom, so my heart skipped a beat when I noticed two teenage girls sitting cross-legged at the base of the pier, about 20 feet below. They wore blue jeans and shimmering green t-shirts, and their brown hair floated loose around their shoulders as minnows darted in and out. They smiled and waved as if I were a long-lost friend. I didn't know what else to do. I waved back. "Don't encourage them," Annabeth warned. "Naiads are terrible flirts." "Naiads," I repeated, feeling completely overwhelmed. "That's it. I want to go home now." Annabeth frowned. "Don't you get it, Percy? You are home. This is the only safe place on Earth for kids like us." "You mean mentally disturbed kids?" "I mean not human. Not totally human, anyway. Half human." "Half human and half what?" "I think you know." I didn't want to admit it, but I was afraid I did. I felt a tingling in my limbs, a sensation I sometimes felt when my mom talked about my dad. "God," I said. "Half God." Annabeth nodded. "Your father isn't dead, Percy. He's one of the Olympians." "That's crazy." "Is it? What's the most common things God did in the old stories? They ran around falling in love with humans and having kids with them. Do you think they've changed their habits in the last few millennia? But those are just," I almost said myths again. Then I remembered Chiron's warning that in 2,000 years, I might be considered a myth. "But if all the kids here are half-gods, demigods," Annabeth said. "That's the official term. Or half-bloods. Then who's your dad? Her hands tightened around a pure railing. I got the feeling I'd just trespassed on a sensitive subject. My dad is a professor at West Point, she said. I haven't seen him since I was very small. He teaches American history. He's human. What? You assume it has to be a male god who finds a human female attractive? How sexist is that? How sexist is that? Who's your mom then? Cabin 6. Meaning... Annabeth straightened. Athena, goddess of wisdom and battle. Okay, I thought. Why not? And my dad? Undetermined, Annabeth said. Like I told you before, nobody knows. Except my mother. She knew. Maybe not, Percy. Gods don't always reveal their identities. My dad would have. He loved her. Annabeth gave me a cautious look. She didn't want to burst my bubble. Maybe you're right. Maybe he'll send a sign. That's the only way to know for sure. Your father has to send you a sign claiming you as his son. Sometimes it happens. You mean sometimes it doesn't? Annabeth ran her palm along the rail. The gods are busy. They have a lot of kids and they don't always... Well, sometimes they don't care about us, Percy. They ignore us. I thought about some of the kids I'd seen in the Hermes cabin. Teenagers who looked sullen and depressed, as if they were waiting for a call that would never come. I'd known kids like that at Yancey Academy, shuffled off to boarding school by rich parents who didn't have the time to deal with them. The gods should behave better. So I'm stuck here, I said. That's it? For the rest of my life? It depends, Annabeth said. Some campers only stay the summer. If you're a child of Aphrodite or Demeter, you're probably not a real powerful force. The monsters might ignore you, so you can get by with a few months of summer training and live in the mortal world for the rest of the year. But for some of us, it's too dangerous to leave. We are year-rounders. In the mortal world, we attract monsters. They sense us. They come to challenge us. Most of the time, they'll ignore us until we're old enough to cause trouble. About 10 or 11 years old. But after that, most demigods either make their way here or they get killed off. A few manage to survive in the outside world and become famous. Believe me, if I told you the names, you'd know them. Some don't even realize they're demigods, but very few are like that. So monsters can't get in here? Annabeth shook her head. Not unless they're intentionally stalked in the woods or specially summoned by somebody on the inside. Why would anybody want to summon a monster? Practice fights? Practical jokes? Practical jokes? The point is, the borders are sealed to keep mortals and monsters out. From the outside, mortals look into the valley and see nothing unusual, just a strawberry farm. So, you're a year-rounder? Annabeth nodded. From under the collar of her t-shirt, she pulled a leather necklace with 5 clay beads of different colors. It looks just like Luke's, except Annabeth's also had a big gold ring strung on it, like a college ring. I've been here since I was 7, she said. Every August, on the last day of summer session, you get a bead for surviving another year. I've been here longer than most of the counselors, and they're all in college. Why did you choose to come? Why did you come so young? She twisted the ring on her necklace. None of your business. Okay. I stood there for a minute in uncomfortable silence. So, I could just walk out of here right now if I wanted to? It would be suicide, but you could, with Mr. D's or Cheeran's permission. But they won't get permission until the end of the summer session. Unless you were granted a quest. But that hardly ever happens. The last time... Her voice trailed off. I could tell from her tone that the last time hadn't gone well. Back in the sick room, I said, "Were you feeling? When you were feeding me that stuff, ambrosia? Yeah. You asked me something about the summer solstice." Annabeth's shoulders tensed. "So you do know something?" "Well, no. Back at my old Back at my old school, I overheard Grover and Sheeran talking about it. Grover mentioned the summer solstice. He said something like that, said something like we didn't have much time because of the deadline. What did that mean?" She clenched her fists. "I wish I knew Sheeran and the satyrs. They know, but they won't tell me. Something is wrong on Olympus. Something pretty major. Last time I was there, everything seemed so normal." You've been to Olympus? "Some of us year rounders, Luke and Clarissa and I and a few others, we took a field trip down watering solstice. That's when the gods have their big annual council." "But how did you get there?" "The Long Island Railroad, of course. You get off at Penn Station, Empire State Building, special elevator to the 600th floor, right? To the 600th floor." She looked at me like she was sure know I must know this already. "You're a New Yorker, right?" "Oh, sure. As far as I knew, there was only 102 flight floors in the Empire State Building, but I decided not to point that out." "Right after we visited," Annabeth lamented, "the weather got weird, as if the gods had started falling. A couple of times since I've overheard satyrs talking. The beast, I can figure out, is the something unimportant was stolen, and if it isn't returned by summer solstice, there's going to be hell to pay." Wait, what? "There's going to be trouble." What the hell was I talking about? I'm sorry. When you came, no, that book did not say there'd be hell to pay. It just said there's going to be trouble. It said there's going to be trouble, not that there's going to be hell to pay. I'm sorry. When you came, I was hoping, I mean, Athena can get along with just about anybody, except for Ares. And of course, she's got the rivalry with Poseidon. But I mean, aside from that, I thought we could work together. I thought you might know something." I shook my head. I wish I could help her, but I felt too hungry and tired, and mentally overloaded to ask any more questions. "I've got to get a quest," Annabeth muttered to herself. "I'm not too young. If they would just tell me the problem." I could smell barbecue smoke coming from somewhere nearby. Annabeth must have heard my stomach growl. She told me to go on. She'd catch me later. I left her on the pier, tracing her fingers across the rail as if drawing a battle plan. Oh, hello, Celine Bella. How you doing tonight? Or call me Bella. I'm sorry. I have my glasses on and I still couldn't read that properly. What the? Anyway, I love Percy Jackson. Nice. And yeah, Grover is not technically a goat. He is, uh, what do you call that? I believe he is what is called a he does have like he is like half human, half goat, but I don't know what you call that. But no, a he is not a full grown goat. All right. Back at cabin 11, everyone was talking and horsing around, waiting for dinner. For the first time, I noticed that a lot of the campers had similar features: sharp noses. "Hello, Hirod Rhea. How you doing tonight?" Let's see here. For the first time, I noticed that a lot of the campers had similar features: sharp noses, unturned eyebrows, mischievous smiles. They were the kind of kids that teachers would peg as troublemakers. Thankfully, nobody paid much attention to me as I walked over to my spot on the floor and plopped down with my minotaur horn. The counselor, Luke, came over. He had the Hermes family resemblance too. It was marred by that scar on his right cheek, but his smile was intact. Found you a sleeping bag, he said. And here, I stole you some toiletries from the camp store. I couldn't tell if he was kidding about the stealing part. I said, thanks. No prob. Luke sat next to me, pushed his back against the wall. Tough first day? I don't belong here, I said. I don't even believe in gods. Yeah, he said. That's how we all started. Once you start believing in them, it doesn't get any easier. The bitterness in his voice surprised me because Luke seemed like a pretty easygoing guy. He looked like he could handle just about anything. So your dad is Hermes? I asked. Doing great? Okay. Good to hear, but you don't need to shout using caps lock. Just saying. He pulled a switchblade out of a switchblade out of his back pocket, and for a second I thought he was going to gut me, but he just scraped the mud off the sole of his sandal. Yeah, Hermes. The wing-footed messenger guy. That's him. Messengers, medicine, travelers, merchants, thieves, anybody who uses the roads. That's why you're here. Enjoying Cabin 11's hospitality. Hermes isn't picky about who he sponsors. I figured Luke didn't mean to call me a nobody. He just had a lot on his mind. You ever seen your dad? I asked. Once. I waited, thinking as if he wanted to tell me he'd tell me. Apparently he didn't. I wonder if the story had anything to do with how he got his scar. Lila looked up and managed to smile. Don't worry about it, Percy. The computers here, they're mostly good people. After all, we're extended family now, right? We take care of each other. He seemed to understand how lost I felt, and I was grateful for that, because an older guy like this seemed, even if he was a counselor, should have steered clear of an uncool middle schooler like me. Best Luke had welcomed me into uh to the cabin. He even stole me some toiletries, which was the nicest thing anybody has ever done for me through all day. I decided to ask him my last big question, the one that had been bothering me for all afternoon. Clarissa, for Mary's, was joking about me peddling big three material. Then Annabeth. Twice she said I might be the one. She said I should talk to the Oracle. What was that all about? Luke folded his knife. I hate prophecies. What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean? His face twitched around the scar. Let's just say I messed things up for everybody. The lack of 2 years over since my trip to Garden of the Hopes Esperandes went sour. Jiren hadn't lost any more quotes from Annabeth's been dying to get out of the world. She pressured Jiren to to too much. He finally told her he already knew his face. Um, yeah, hold on a second. Alright, I think I know where I'm at now. His face twitched around the scar. Let's just say it messed things up for everybody else. The last 2 years, ever since my trip to the garden of the Esperides, went sour. Jiren hadn't allowed any more quotes. Annabeth's been dying to get out into the world. She pressed and cheered so much he finally told her he already knew her farce. He'd had a prophecy from O's oracle. He wouldn't tell me the whole time yet. She had to wait until someone special opened someone special opened game to life. To the wait. She He wouldn't tell her the whole thing, but he said Annabeth wasn't destined to go on a quest yet. She had to wait until somebody special came to the camp. I just wanted to rephrase that second statement just in case I missed anything. Don't worry. Seriously special? Don't worry about it, kid, Luke said. Annabeth wants to think new camper who comes through them is the one she's been looking for. Now, come on, it's determined. It's determined. The moment he said it, a horn blew in the distance. Somehow I knew it was a conch shell, even though I had never heard one before. Luke yelled, 511, fall in? Cab, let's see. The whole cabin, above 20 of us, filed in the commons yard. We lived in the order of seniority, so of course I was dead last. Campers came from the other cabins too, except for the three missions. Expect yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not good. Right. Hmm. Oh man, I'm ready to hit the hay a little bit, at least a little bit closer. I'm gonna try to get to. I'm gonna just read through 110, 210, or not 2. What the? Ay, 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 ay. 110. 110. That's what I was gonna say. Hey, Hered, 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 hold on, I don't like butchering names, and I kind of already am here. Harid, Haridayam, Haridayam, how you doing tonight? I would be surprised if I actually got that correct. Because I cannot do, um, I cannot, I don't like saying names wrong. Yeah, I just hate doing that. So if I get it wrong, correct me. But know that I don't do it on purpose. If I don't know you, then I'm gonna. Yeah, you're correct. Oh, that's nice. Huh. First try, let's go. Anyway, the moment he said it, the horn blew in the distance. Somehow, somehow I knew it was a conch shell, even though I had never heard one before. Luke yelled, 11! Fall in! Actually, I'll read until chapter 8, and then I'll read 8 through 10 tomorrow night. Because, um, I'm just starting to get tired. But hey, at least I got some reading done, you know what I mean? Anyway, Luke yelled, 11! Fall in! The whole cabin, about 20 of us, filed into the commons yard. We lined up in order of seniority, so of course I was dead last. Campers came from the other cabins too, except for the three empty cabins at the end, and cabin 8, which had looked normal in the daytime, but was now starting to glow silver as the sun went down. We marched up the hill to the mess hall pavilion. Satyrs joined us from a meadow. Naiads emerged from the canoeing lake. A few other girls came out of the woods. And that when I say out of the woods, I mean straight out of the woods. I saw one girl about 9 or 10 years old mount from the side of a maple tree and come skipping up the hill. In all, there were maybe 100 campers, a few dozen satyrs, and a dozen assorted wood nymphs and naiads. At the pavilion, torches blazed around the marble columns. A central fire burned in a bronze brazier the size of a bathtub. Each cabin had its own table, covered in white cloth trimmed in purple. Four of the tables were empty, but cabin 11's was way overcrowded. I had to squeeze on the edge of a bench with half my butt hanging off. I saw Grover sitting at a table 12 with Mr. D, a few satyrs, and a couple of plump blond boys who looked just like Mr. D. Cheering stood at one side, the picnic table being way too small for a centaur. And Annabeth sat at table 6 with a bunch of serious-looking athletic kids, all with their gray eyes and honey blonde hair. Clarice sat behind me at Andres' table. She'd apparently gotten over being hosed down, because she was laughing and belching right alongside her friends. Finally, Cheerin pounded his hoof against the marble floor of the pavilion, and everybody fell silent. He raised a glass. To the gods! Everybody else raised their glass. To the gods! Wood nymphs came forward with platters of food. Grapes, apples, strawberries, cheese, fresh bread, and yes, barbecue! My glass was empty, but Luke said, Speak to it. Whatever you want, whatever you want. Non-alcoholic, of course. I said, Cherry Coke. The glass filled with sparkling caramel liquid. Then I had an idea. Blue Cherry Coke. The soda turned a violent shade of cobalt. I took a cautious sip. Perfect. I drank a toast to my mother. She's not gone, I told myself. Not permanently, anyway. She's in the underworld. And if that's a real place, then someday... Here you go, Percy, Luke said, handing me a platter of smoked brisket. I loaded my plate and was about to take a big bite when I noticed everybody getting up, carrying their plates toward the fire in the center of the pavilion. I wondered if they were going for dessert or something. Come on, Luke told me. As I got closer, I saw that everyone was taking a portion of their meal and dropping it into the fire. The ripest strawberry, the juiciest slice of beef, the warmest, most buttery roll. Luke murmured in my ear. Burnt offerings for the god. They like the gods. They like the smell. You're kidding. His look warned me not to take this lightly, but I couldn't help wondering why an immortal, all-powerful being would like the smell of burning food. Luke approached the fire, bowed his head, and tossed in a cluster of fat red grapes. Hermes. I was next. I wished I knew what god's name to say. Finally, I made a silent plea. Whoever you are, tell me. Please. I scraped a big slice of brisket into the flames. When I caught a whiff of the smoke, I didn't gag. It smelled nothing like burning food. It smelled of hot chocolate and fresh-baked brownies, hamburgers on the grill, and wildflowers, and 100 other good things that should have gone one another, but did. That shouldn't have gone one another, but did. I could almost believe the gods could live off that smoke. When everybody had returned to their seats and finished eating their meals, Sheeran pounded his hoof again for our attention. Mr. D got up with a huge sigh. Yes, I suppose I'd better say hello to all you brats. Well, hello. Our activity director, Cheerin, says the next capture the flag is Friday. Comet 5 presently holds the laurels. A bunch of ugly cheering rose from the Aries table. Personally, Mr. D continued, I couldn't care less, but congratulations. Also, I should tell you that we have a new camper today, Percy Jackson. Peter... I messed up his name because that's not what he says here. Let him say his line again, I'm sorry. Also, I should tell you that we have a new camper today, Peter Johnson. Cheery murmured something. Percy Jackson, Mr. D corrected. That's right. on all that. Now run along to your silly campfire. Go on. Everybody cheered. We all headed down toward the amphitheater, where Apollo's cabin was let us sing along. We sang camp songs for about the gods and ate s'mores and joked around. And the funny thing was, I didn't feel that anyone was staring at me anymore. I felt that I was home. Later in the evening, when the sparks from the campfire were curling into a starry sky, the conch horn blew again, and we all filed back to our cabins. I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I collapsed on my borrowed sleeping bag. My fingers curled around the Minotaur's horn. I thought about my mom, but I had good thoughts. Her smile, the bedtime stories she would read me when I was a kid, the way she would tell me not to let the bedbugs bite. When I closed my eyes, I fell asleep instantly. That was my first day at Camp Half-Blood. I wish I'd known how briefly I would get to enjoy my new home. So we're actually going to take a little breather. I didn't do much reading, but hey, 2 chapters, not too terribly bad. So tomorrow night, I will be reading chapters 8 and 9. So yeah, that's what we're going to do for tomorrow night. So it's going to be a bit of a quick stream in itself. Tonight was a bit of a quick stream, I know, but when you gotta go to work early in the morning, you kind of don't want to do it too long, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. So yeah, this was a bit of a short stream, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, this second part of Percy Jackson, the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. Tomorrow, if I get home early enough, I will be doing chapter 8 and 9 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and part 2 of Slobberknocker, My Life in Wrestling by Jim Ross. We'll see. Just depends on what's going on. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Oh, we had somebody else coming in. Carnita Jayswald, how you doing tonight? Don't spam in my chat, please. I don't like when people spam in the chats. Like, this is gonna be a warning. Don't do it too much, because I don't like timing people out for something like that. But anyway, I am doing pretty good though. Thank you for asking. How are you doing tonight? No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just saying. But you're okay. But I was just saying. All right. Yeah. But how are you doing tonight? Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a chat before I end the stream here. Yep. You know what I'm in the mood for? One of the things that I just bought from work today, or not work, from Walmart. It's one of these bacon jerkies. Yes, I do like the Jackman bacon jerkies. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to eat them on stream because, yeah. I don't like eating in front of people. Especially those who are not less... What's that? Oh, it's... If you heard of bacon, or beef jerky... If you heard of Jackman's beef jerky... This is their bacon jerky. And for me personally, I like this stuff. I like the bacon jerky. I just do. It's just something for me. Because it gives that, let me show you real quick. I'm not going to be too surprised because I know that some American food are not readily available elsewhere. You're from India, that would explain it. But yeah, bacon jerky is pretty much like that. It's like regular bacon, but it's jerkied. Not... Yeah, it's like... Yeah. So, it's like a... I can't really explain what jerky is, but it's like... Jerky is... I would say it's like one of the most American food you could probably think we would have. Because, yeah, we do get that here in America. We got plenty of things in America. Too many things, in fact. But, yeah, I like this. It's hickory smoked, too, and it's so good. Yeah, probably the most American thing we'll ever have in one of the most American things ever. But we always gotta have fat foods over here. Yeah, I like it. Maybe delicious to taste. Yeah, it is. I like it so much. I actually bought like 3 packs of this stuff. I like it so much. I bought like 3 of these at Walmart. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, what they should have it to where we could send American food over to other countries. But I know we can actually because you always got those videos of people who are willing to try foreign foods or foods that they know of but we don't have that kind of flavor. For an example, over here we do have Lay's chips like so many other people in the world, but we don't have certain flavors that other countries have. Or we have a McDonald's, but because of regional difference, like how things work in different countries, the food may be different. See, for us here, we got something like hamburgers, fillet of fish, things like that. So yeah, you got so many different things from so many different cultures that it's not even funny. In America, I feel like America's probably got what would be considered the most quote unquote fun, but also kind of fatty kind of foods there. Whereas other places might have their own different kind of, like other kind of cuisine. Because I know you got like, because you got like Indian cuisine, you got French cuisine, Chinese cuisine, Japanese cuisine, American cuisine, Canadian cuisine, Mexican cuisine, Chinese cuisine, things and such of that nature. That's just how it is. Truthfully, if I was to be honest, if I wanted to try any type of cuisine, I'd probably be willing to try. Hmm, I'd probably be. I'm always willing to try some food, but it depends on how. The one thing I will not ever eat are things with beans and vegetables in it, particularly beans because I don't like beans. Okay, yeah, we understand you're from India. Yeah, we understand that. Um, yeah, it's always interesting to try out new foods, like foods from other cultures, other areas of the world. It's always interesting to try that out, especially when you got so many people that have made so many videos revolving around trying separate, like other countries' foods, and I always um we have a bunch of flavors. Yeah, yeah. Because it's always fun to see like my personal favorites in America are the candy because it's like it's so good honestly in my book because we got candy here and from my personal opinion my favorite candy is Reese's peanut butter cups. I just like it so much. And you know, I always love watching videos of people from other countries that 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 judge our candy from America from the U.S. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm curious to see what they got to say about this. They gotta like this. They got to at least like the chocolate and peanut butter cups. Because if anything, they should like at least those. Because they taste so good together. Peanut butter and chocolate actually work so well together. It's not even funny. Actually, I remember someone when I was watching the Bravo's 30 scariest even the Bravo's 30 even scarier movie moments list mini series that they did, the 2-part series there. Somebody said uh horror the blood and gore and horror is like uh peanut butter and chocolate, two great tastes that taste great together. And yeah, it's sort of true with horror. Sometimes you have spooks and scares. Sometimes you got the violent factor to uh, push the envelope some. Personally, for me, the one thing I gotta say, I always like watching horror movies, especially foreign horror movies, because because we are the type where we make some pretty good horror movies. But it just seems like other countries, particularly the Japanese, in my opinion, they make some scary movies. They make some drop dead, like, stay in your seat type of scary stuff. I even remember, while it wasn't Japanese, I remember there was this one movie. I think it was Korean. I think that movie, this movie in question, it was titled Shutter. Um, and it was about a man who did a drunken hit and run one night, and instead of helping the victim out, he chose to drive away, and then all kinds of hits the fan after that, literally to the point to, and you know everything that they use in that movie. I believe it was in. I think the movie released in 2004. Yeah, the movie came out literally 20 years ago. Um, and how they use how they work in that, how the jump scares in that movie work is basically where you see a picture, and then when you see when you see the pictures on two separate frames, you see it go one you see it in one way, and then the next time you see it, it's either changed the second at like the second shot, or you or like say it looks like, say this is the face here, or it just goes like, you know, like literally like where you get an actual pretty good jump scare, where instead of where it's like it looks and then it cuts away, and then when you look again it looks right at you. That movie, I want to find that movie again. I want to see what that movie is. Yeah, Side Eyes, what happened to your eyes? Are you okay? To answer the question, first off, no worries. You probably could believe how many times I've been asked that question all of my life. It's probably more than you probably think I have been asked that question. So I'm not really offended by it. Don't worry about it. That answer the question. I was born this way, actually. surprisingly to some people, I was born this way. If you want to know exactly what it is, look up on the whatever website you use for a searching website. Look up the term golden har. That is golden, HAR space syndrome. There is no space in golden and har. They're two together. That's what'll tell you why I look this way. Also, I was born 1 month prematurely as well. On top of that, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I've had people ask me so many times all throughout my life about why I look this way. They ask them in certain ways, many different ways. A bit, some were could have asked it better. But I knew they're kids, and they don't know how to properly ask a question. But yeah, that's how it is there. But there were two times that I got real that I was like, okay, asshole. Because they really were assholes about. They were well. One was sort of an asshole about, but the other one really was. This one time while I was working at a store. That's a popular brand name store, by the way. Not the one I currently work at, but one that I worked previously before the one I work at now. I remember being asked a question again by a teenager. So I answered her question, and out of nowhere, she just says, "You look weird." Yeah, the parent or guardian that was next to her did not like her saying that. And in my head, I was thinking, like, young lady, I'm going to be, out of everything that you're going to hopefully learn about and never experience, I'm going to be the least weirdest thing you're going to be thinking about. I'm going to be the least weirdest thing you're going to either know about or, and I hope to many degrees, to certain degrees, it doesn't happen, will experience. Yeah, I'll be the least weirdest thing you're going to deal with. Hey, Lion Blade, how you doing tonight? I'm honestly surprised you're awake. I figured you'd be asleep by now. But the second time, I had somebody be a real... Okay. Good to hear. This was actually in the middle of a stream that I was doing. I forget what stream it was, but I remember what happened. There's one dude was asking me the same question that I said to you guys that I get asked all the time, and I answered it. And he said, "Why would I sleep? Because it's late at night, and just like you, I need to get some sleep." But the only reason why I'm staying awake is because I just want to have a little chat before we ended it. Just because why not? But anyway, so what happened was this dude was saying that question. Man, I miss it. Yeah, blame it on my work schedule. That's why I don't really talk that much in certain areas. Because my work schedule is literally all over the place. It's either short or long days. There's no gray area. And right now, no joke, I'm not even kidding. Outside of days that I have off, I have to work. I have literally 7, including today, by the way, 7 back to back to back to back to back to back to back lunch days. Think about that. And they all vary in different times, too. They're not consistent. But, it is what it is. So, yeah. But anyway, so this guy asked me the question that I said I get asked a number of times. Then he calls me a zombie-looking motherfucker. So I chose to time him out. Well, no, actually, I just told him off and be like, dude, don't be an asshole. Come on. If you want to be an asshole somewhere else. Be the funny asshole. Don't be a simple ass. Don't be a general asshole, okay? And then shortly after that, he started spamming a certain N-word, letter by letter by letter by letter by letter. Before he was able to finish that word, you know which one I'm talking about when I say 5 letters and it's the N-word. While he was in the middle of trying to spam that, probably trying to make me look bad because motherfucking bots do that all the time, and I get really pissed off about it. I hit him. I banned him from my chat because if anybody's gonna start that type of level, yeah, you're not welcome. Nope. You want to pull that? You're out of here. Same goes to people that try to use racial slurs or something like that. I don't look like a zombie. I look like Scar. Boy, where is the scar on this side? Huh? I don't see a scar over here. I would say I probably could pass up if I have the right cosplaying attire. I could pass as a pretty good Kakashi from Naruto. Yes, I do know of that anime, and yes, I fucking love Kakashi in that series. But yeah. Alright. But in any event, I think I'm gonna call it a night with that. Because it is... What time is it? Wrong thing there. It is almost 2:30. Dragon Ball. I said Naruto, not Dragon Ball. What are you talking about? Bruh. First off, if you haven't seen Dragon Ball, I'm actually I've been doing some live streams watching some of those episodes, actually, as a matter of fact. So if you want to hear me watch, if you want to hear the episodes while I'm watching them, you got all those streams there. There are 3 streams doing that, and I need to get back into it to catch up on it. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to sleep, or go to, end the stream here. Because I gotta work in the morning, and I need as much sleep as I can possibly get before I wake up and go to work. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Percy Jackson, the Olympians, the Lightning Thief, and this in part chatting stream. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Force Walpole signing off.